Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Couple O Nukes. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Whiskey, and I'm excited for today. It's a collaboration day where I was on someone's show and now they're back here on my show months apart. I mean, it is great to have this reunion. We can catch up on so much. Last I spoke to our guest today, his show was not up and running. It had been, almost 2 years since it had seen an episode, and now he is back at it, rebranded, repurposed. Some of the old still there, some of the new there, and we're gonna get into both of that today. And I already have so many questions for our guests, but I want to start by saying, he and I were just talking off mic about even just his own life being rebranded through his hairstyle, so to speak. And so we're going to get right into it, Mr. Vik Dashtor. I know you're eager to talk, so I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah. Well, for one, Mr. Whiskey, thank you so much for having me on the show. And yeah, it's kind of a full circle moment, right? However, it's very interesting to all your listeners. This is no catfish. I apologize if the branding may have seemed it may seem as though that I'm a double person. I swear that's me, and I swear that yeah, that's me. That's me. However, it was just a press look. It was just a press look. It was a photo shoot. Now that I think that that photo would have been used for my podcast episodes, not entirely. I mean, hey, when I was doing audio podcasts back in I think we were like back in 2023, it is yeah, that was pretty much essentially my style then, and that's when I kind of had my
Yeah.
photo shoot. However, I never really released them as much to promote the podcast. So now you see me 2 years later, that 2 year hiatus you were speaking about. And yeah, so this is just me and my natural flow. And I mean that's the thing, it's a duality of life. You always change and always moving with the flow, always doing something different.
Yeah.
Same thing with the switch from audio to the video podcast, in which you was a featured guest on as well, which I'm so thankful for.
Yeah. And, for those of us listening, let's get into your old look. It's on the YouTube thumbnail, but for those who are listening only on Apple Podcasts or wherever they get their podcasts from, how would you describe the look? Is there a celebrity that you could compare it to, or how would you describe it? It's not a
Honestly,
mullet
no.
because you got
Honestly,
the full wraparound.
I would say honestly, not entirely. I feel as though it was bits and pieces of just everything that in my life. Like one,
Mm.
like the whole blonde, well, brown, blonde, ash brown, whatever you may call it, because it's a compilation of it
It's
all.
like caramel colored almost.
Yeah, it's like a caramel. Typically, I mean, I was more on that rocker stage, like growing up and like in school, high school, and and so I would just like always like dark. It was dark. It was like dark clothing, black hair. It was always on that rocker aspect. You feel me?
Yeah.
So me kind of like going blonde and doing like more vibrant colors. It's almost a solidification in my growth in life. So I look at myself now and I
From
see
dark to
myself
light.
as okay, yeah, I see it's a duality, right? I see
Yeah.
the yin, the yang, with the yin,
Hmm.
it's a little darkness in there, but on the outer side, you still see the light. And then of course with the yang, which is typically the darker, but on the inside it's still light. So I feel as though with me, it's me kind of balancing my life out in a sense. Um, and that was how I would describe my brand, especially with the Dash It Out show. The Dash It Out show is very extroverted. However, most of my life I was very introverted,
Mm.
and so it's kind of a full circle moment for me. I like the vibrant colors. I like the expressive, bold look. It remind
Yeah.
myself, just you know what? Regardless of who you are, there's always a bit of boldness within you. And that's kind of essentially the premise of the show, of Dash It Out. And I want people, the listeners, to take away from that. Like, there's a bit of boldness within you. I'm not saying you have to be a raging jerk or an ass, but in most cases, there's that boss that lives within you.
Yeah, and if I have a gray turtleneck sweater as well, so we could have been matching here. I didn't think of it until I just noticed
Yeah.
was checking out the style. You talk about bold,
Mm.
and not everyone can rock a turtleneck, so it takes a bold man to put one on. And I have a few. I don't wear them often. There's a time and a place for that. But I will say, you mentioned your show, Dash It Out, and I have a couple questions about that, of course, and that's what we're here to really talk about because that's what you do now. And I never read a script or anything on my show, but I will read your show's description verbatim, which is after hours talk brought to the daytime. Let's not avoid sensitive topics, but dash it out. Real
Mm-hmm.
talk with real people from every walk of life. You'll never wait for happy hour again. So there's a couple different things here. We've got some hints at kind of the drinking and early appetizer culture there with the happy hour. We've got after hours talk brought to the daytime. That can mean a lot of things. We've got
Exactly.
avoiding sensitive topics and then the dash it out, which we have to know, Mr. Dashtor. Is this a chicken and egg kind of question where was it your name inspired the show or did the show just happen to exist with that name and you happen to have the last name Dashtor?
It's kind of both, you know. And I kind of like wanted to touch topics on about what you were saying about far as the premise or the the brief description of the show. Yeah, after I was talking about the daytime. There's
Mhm.
really a double meaning. There's a double meaning behind that. And you was onto something. I'm not really sure if you knew, but there's definitely a double meaning. So when people think of after hours, people essentially think in this modern day age, they think about partying, the next best move, like the next party snack. Yes, that's
Yeah.
fine and dandy. Yes, that is essentially a form of after hours. But in the Dash It Out show, it is the compilation of both the party aspect, but also that long day of work. Like once you get up home from a long day of work and kind of relax, you may want to like eat some popcorn or probably eat some chips and watch a good movie and then vent to your partner about your day. Or you may want to pour
Exactly.
yourself
Yeah.
a glass of wine or pour you a nice drink or probably smoke a doobie and just like vent to your family and friends. That essentially is another form of after hours. You're talking about your day, talking about your work, the good, the bad, the pros, the cons. And essentially, what the Dash It Out show does is allow listeners who are interested in certain positions or occupations that my guests come onto the show are speaking about. And it allows them to be like, okay, you know what? This the director, this movie director is on the Dash It Out show, talking about the good and talking about how he was able to work with these high profile actors and these high profile um, artists to create this project. But then the director is also speaking about those long work hours, the work ethic that comes with it, and also the sacrifices of your art. Sometimes you may have create a project that's so great that everyone's like, you know what, that's perfect, that's perfect. But as a director, you know the narrative is not gonna line up. So now you talk to the script and screenwriting, like, you know what, let's go ahead and just let's change the script up because the narrative isn't lining up right. And that was a great project. The actors delivered their lines perfectly, and the cameras, the film crew was on point. But sometimes, as a director, you kind of get a little discouraged when you have to say, "Cut, we got to cut that," because
Right.
as creators, we both creators art, this is our baby, this is our work, so that's essentially what the Dash It Out show is about. We don't just talk about just the party and lifestyle, which we do have our moments and occasions. We do talk about some crazy
Yeah.
things. However, in most cases it's pretty much about the occupation field and the good and the bad that comes along with it, and how the listeners who are inspiring to be in that particular field, what their takeaways for and how I can better prepare them.
Yeah, and there are certain things you're not allowed to talk about at work, and depending on the workplace and the culture, and you talk about sensitive topics and not avoiding them but dashing them out. And that is something even in the world of podcasting. For example, I'm hosting a guest a couple episodes from now who speaks on school shootings and the reality of it and going into that. And he's been denied from several podcasts who said, we can't have that kind of topic on our show. It's too taboo. It's too sensitive. It's too horrific. But I really appreciate people like yourself and I who look the world is a messed up place and there's stuff happening and not talking about it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's not out of sight, out of mind kind of stuff. So you talk about not avoiding those sensitive topics, but dash it out, dashing them out. What does that mean? I know a lot of people are thinking, probably like you take a pen or a pencil and you're like one line in something. So what do you mean dash it out? What does that expression mean to you and what should it mean to your listeners?
Well, it means exactly what it is, dash it out. If you Google the term dash it out, is simply a quick moment, a quick and go moment. So you handle your business, you go about your business. There's no reason to overly elaborate on a subject matter that's pretty much obvious. So that's what it means to me. However, Dashtor, yeah, Dashtor will
Yeah.
pretty much, but dash it out is the essentially means exactly what it is. The come and go movement, back and forth movement. Handle your business and you go. That's why my podcast specifically, Dash It Out, time frame is typically around 30, 40 minutes, or most cases 50 minutes, because I know I give you like a good slot.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
But
a talker. I'm a rambler.
but but with my listeners, they typically just want something quick and quick. And honestly, I think they stay on brand with Dash It Out and also stay on brand with my name. So you asked earlier as far as did I start the show and then I kind of made it about my name, or it
Right.
was my name and then about the show? That's why I said it's kind of both, you know. Dash It Out is me. Like even when I was doing music, I still do music now, but as an artist, like writing music and composing and performing, my stage name was Vik Dashtor, my name, like Vik Dashtor. That was my stage name. And so the show Dash It Out was essentially pretty much an extension of it in a sense.
Mm.
At the same time, like I said, the meaning of dash it out is to go and from, is never to linger or to be stagnated. And that's what the message I try to convey on the show. Like, okay, let's go ahead and talk about it. We're going to do this and move it along. As far as deeper conversations, I am definitely working on something in the near future as far as deeper conversations with live. I'm actually in the process of getting a new studio, and but
Nice.
yeah, live recording sessions, and we just go into deeper conversations, and have like nice little panel talks.
Yeah, so instead of the dash it out, it would be dashing it out,
Yeah, no,
It'll be-
seriously, like
yeah, I get you.
the continuation of dash and dash out. But yeah, you get the gist. You get the gist.
I do. And a question for you, kind of related to that, which is, do you feel like nowadays, I mean, we've got so many forms of news from social media, influencers, TikTokers, podcasters, mainstream media, and there's so much going on in the world politically, socially, economically. Do you feel like that a lot of people, especially these higher ups in the governments and people on social media reposting and posting and reposting, do you feel like a lot of people aren't, dashing, they're talking in circles and just kind of beating a dead horse, so to speak, with certain topics, and that it's kind of just wasting everyone's time, and that, we need to come to resolutions more quickly and have these conversations sooner in a more efficient manner. Otherwise, they just keep getting dragged out, and social media is just negatively affecting that by just allowing people to continually post and repost.
Well, let me just ask you this quick question: how do you stay in power? That's rhetorical, but let me just go ahead and just let you know
Yeah,
you stay in power by having something that people need and want and ensure that they would never get it. So when you
right.
see them kind of talking in circles, they're politicians for one. Come on now, public interest is what they live off of. Do you think that if they really gave a viable solution to most of these problems, you really think they're going to do that? If they've done that,
Mm.
they would not only just been seen as, okay, this is someone that can get things done, but then it's like the politicians gonna feel as though, what am I doing? What am I here for? These people don't need me no more. I solved their problem now, and it's like they don't need me no more. Everyone wants to feel valued. Everyone wants to be seen and heard. And sometimes in this fucking age, I would say the drama, the scandal is what keeps things relevant and alive.
Yeah,
Fortunately, it's America for you. It's one business. Businesses having a product. Having a product that's that the public want. And in this case, politicians, influencers, they consider themselves a product. They consider themselves a brand. They consider themselves a value. If you take away the value of something, then what is it? Useless. Everyone
right.
wants to feel valuable. Everyone wants to be seen and heard and loved and respected. Some people were willing to talk about it, but do just enough to show that, oh, I hear your concerns. I will make it my mission to try to help you, to try to fix the
Mm.
situation without actually putting the work and the effort to really get the people going. And it's a saying that goes that the fish rots at the head. Okay. Most people in power, they know what it is that they're doing. However,
Yeah.
if they fix most of these issues, then we wouldn't be talking about it right now.
That's true. That's true. And you know what? We've seen even in like media in the entertainment industry, such as different TV shows and movies, even these plot twists that the war that the main protagonist and antagonist were fighting in, they were just being continued for the sole purpose of these companies that made the weapons or certain generals to stay in power. Like I've seen
Mhm.
shows where the wars were almost agreed by the rich people to continue making money and to continue having the poor people kill each other off and stuff. And we see stuff like that even in the real world. And I totally agree. It's part of the thing we've discussed on my show with pharmaceutical companies doing symptom treating rather than, root cause destruction. Because if you lose that root cause, you lose that patient. You lose that patient, you lose that money. So we see it all the time. Same with insurance companies and all kinds of different platforms. So it's a sad, sinful, corrupt world we live in.
It
But
is very fucked up. Okay, let me tell you this right now, Mr. Whiskey. Okay, since we're on this topic, let's go ahead and just go and put this out there. Okay, I'm a black male living in America. Okay, not only have I witnessed some racial BS, but not to the extent of most Americans who are within my shoes. And then you also, people always say, like, oh, you want to use a race car, you want to use a race car. Racism is embedded within the DNA of America. You cannot fight that. You cannot ignore it. It's literally part of our history. You cannot fight it. You cannot ignore it. But a lot of people like to push it off because it's such a touchy topic. It's hard to really kind of come in terms with those ghosts of the past, not knowing that those ghosts of the past are haunting us right now. Okay, systematic oppression is what America is, and in this day and age, systematic oppression does not just see one race. It sees any and every race. It's more classism than anything and everything. And for someone such as myself, who's from Washington, D.C., who grew up and witnessed classism to its finest, you can clearly go to D.C. and see that, oh, well, how everything is structured, how literally the lowest part of DC is more predominantly those who are under like housing assistance, government assistance, who need any type of,
yeah,
and the urban areas, those urban communities that do not get the proper development in which they deserve, because they're like, why would we do this? The property value of this places are down because the people who live here. So what's the purpose of investing in it? The schools, you mentioned like school shootings. School shootings happen all the time with kids bringing knives, people get threatened, fights happen. What's been brought to the surface level, what's been portrayed in media, is what they want us to know. Like we said, if they sit
yeah,
there and really put a magnifying glass on what is truly happening, they will look at our politician leaders like, what the are you doing? I'm trying to really hold back and restrict from like cursing too much for your show because I know that's
yeah,
not the
for
case.
sure.
But seriously, what are you doing? Like, this is not who I voted for? And then like now we have the whole thing with Trump with the whole ICE raids and everything. Personally, I don't really speak too much on politics. I do can understand. I can see why Trump is doing what he's doing as far as the criminal immigrants that's here within our country that are causing problems. And I witnessed right here in New York City. I witnessed like a lot. Like I literally witnessed a woman getting robbed, and it was like a few Venezuelans that live like in the hotel right there at Times Square. Times Square is like where everyone go and hang out and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
it's also a breeding ground for a lot of robbery because you have tourists that come to the city, which is interested about what's going on. And yeah. Okay. Long story short, to bring it back to the subject matter. Okay. There's a lot of classism that happens. And at the same time, it's like if you have someone beneath you that you always put on a pedestal. The whole setup in DC, like I was telling you about, you can clearly see in certain urban areas how everyone is pushed to a certain area of the city. Middle class is typically middle upper class, and upper class is just like looking down, is like whatever. That I've witnessed that class growing up in DC. Now, far as everything else with politicians and people of power, they know what they're doing. They know if they actually really fix an issue, there will be no platform to stand on. Everyone will be so unified. And isn't that supposed to be the premise of America? home of the free, land of the brave, home of the free. You think unity when you think of that slogan. You think unity, but that's not what this is not what it is. So, far as what you were speaking about earlier with the shootings, the school shootings, of course they're gonna show a little something in the media, and they probably fix an issue, not the issue, an issue, just to give people that brief of hope. But far as things actually improving, come on now. If things improve, then people like me and you wouldn't have nothing to talk about and to discuss on our shows. And then the general people of America wouldn't have nothing to discuss when they just speak in politics and this and that. Personally, some people, there are some sick bastards that are in positions of power that see this as sheer entertainment,
Yeah.
sheer entertainment, and think moving people around like like pawns in a chessboard. I can go on and on about it. However, it's I wouldn't say it's a dub, but that's the reason why we do have to get together as people. But that's the reason why we also have to inspire those who are looking to become congressmen, those who are looking to become senators, those who are looking to become um, the next
President.
president, chief of staff, like those who like seriously looking to want to better our world. But then again, the president, I'm just keep it 100. The president is just the face. He's not really the man of power. The
Yeah.
president's just the face. And they say that, oh, the president works for the people, by the people. That's the president. We technically are the president's employees. We employ the president. We invite you in. We use our money, our taxpayer dollars to like sit there and help you do whatever it is that you need to do to secure our safety and the continuation of our nation. But in most cases, the president is more the face. He's more the public figure. So when you have people like Donald Trump, who is in the office, who has said that, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And people actually, and Americans, we actually see the progression of it happening. It's like, wow, we see it. Okay, he's not a man just talk about it. He's a man that actually does it. However, I never put anything past any politician, especially a businessman. So my thing is, we'll see how this turn up. We will see how this turn up.
I
And
think
turn
one of the issues, is that because of the age restrictions on running for president or congressman or these positions of power, it's lagging behind. The people who are getting in are from 20, 30 years ago in terms
Mhm.
of morals, ideas, politics. And I mean, at any age you can keep up with modern politics, but it's also just like you talked about embedded in our DNA. And a lot of, you know, people who are older running for government positions or in government positions, it's just ingrained in them, you know, how they're doing things because that's how they've been doing it for 30 years. That's how their father and mother taught them. I think we need to open up the platform to more younger people. And I think podcasting is so great because, you know, on the flip side, it's bad because anyone can do it. On the bright side, it's great that anyone can do it. In
I
fact,
want
I
to
was
go.
just watching a brief from the White House. They said that the trust in mainstream media has dropped so far that so many people trust podcasts and social media more that podcasters and social media influencers and content creators and those private journalists, they can actually go to the White House now and apply to get credentials to cover all the briefings and stuff. They said we want podcasters here covering the news because people trust them more. Because most podcasters are disconnected from anyone, whereas a lot of the mainstream media, I mean, they got connections, they've got money,
Nice.
everyone has hands in someone's pocket.
Right.
Whereas the podcasters, most of us are independent podcasters, and unless some politician comes and offers up enough money and we're the kind of person to accept that, we're going to put out our content, whether someone likes it or not. So I'll pass it back to you for some thoughts on that. I just think, you talk about, mainstream media, people, analyzing the message they're putting out. And so many people are just so tired of the mainstream media just being so manipulative, of fear mongering, of just fake news. A lot of people hate that term because they say, Trump said it. But there's been fake news for years before Trump was even in office. There's been fake, news for a long time. I
Because
mean,
you know,
you can have two news channels on at the same time, both telling you the opposite story, you know?
because it's sheer entertainment. Is
Exactly.
literally what it is. It is sheer entertainment. News nowadays is just entertainment. Like honestly, like there's no like news, CNN, NBC, ABC, they're no different from MTV.
Yeah.
nowadays, it's literally just entertainment as we speak. And I think that's why most individuals tend to pull towards podcasts or to pull to influencers or those who have spoken about their prior works and or reading books speaking about their prior works from working in certain administrations because it's a tell-all. They'd have nothing to gain from telling you a lie. You know, if anything, they would solidify a better and brighter future for themselves by telling you the truth and not playing your face as if you're dumb. And I think
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people in power see as many of us as pawns and think that, okay, you know what? It's like a kid, right? So if a kid crying and whining, then how would you shut that kid up, technically? Let's see. Okay, you'd be like, okay, well,
We're gonna go get Dairy
have a
Queen.
Happy Meal for McDonald's, or have a toy, or a lollipop, Laffy Taffy. I don't know, whatever kid finds enjoyable. They'll be like, oh, here's a ball you play with, this and that. Oh, let's go to Toys R Us. The Toys R Us even a thing too. I don't
I
know.
think it's
Anyway,
gone now.
it's
Yeah,
gone,
we're
right?
aging ourselves.
Asian ourselves. Let me start telling on age.
We're at that point where we can tell our age now.
Yeah, seriously. Or like, let me like order some things off of Amazon, or better yet, just got my kid this new Amazon Alexa speaker, or this Google Nest, or not, whatever to distract that kid
Yeah.
from initial pain. I call it it. Distract the kid from their initial pain.
Right. Buy
Okay.
them some Dash It
Um,
Out merch.
seriously. So the thing is, it's the same thing with certain individual power. Like it honestly, I don't put it past if one thing what you said really intrigued me about like being able to have press pass, have podcasters coming to be the press, because essentially we do kind of like shit in the news in a sense, not entirely. We just do it in our
Go
own
back to your origin story, DC. Go back to your
way. Yeah,
roots.
no, for real. I should definitely get back into that. I mean, I am also a communications major, minor in journalism, so that's that. Came to New York to further it. And that's kind of one of the reasons of the hiatus of the show, the 2 year gap, because I was just like focusing on so many other things at the
Yeah.
time. And yeah, and then like it's good. You meet individuals such as yourself, God, you explore, you actually come back with more knowledge. And it was a thing. It was a thing that a friend of mine said. Like sometimes it's best to be wise than just be smart, because wisdom is applied knowledge. You know, smart is knowing. But wisdom is applying it. So I think that was a good thing for the whole brief 2 year gap. And with me being able to explore and meet certain individuals and travel and to talk, and I've garnered a lot of knowledge. I've definitely been to I've been through hell and back, as most would say. But I think for the most part, with us as a people, we all been through hell and back. We've all experienced setbacks. We all experienced growth, and we all are wiser than we think we are because we always pursuing it. That applied knowledge. There's one thing to know, but now as people, especially nowadays in this technological age, we are actively looking. We like, you know what? They said that. Let me go ahead and check out these reviews. Let me go ahead
Yeah.
and go on social media and see other credible sources that said the same thing. And then you have people that's kind of debunking it. Now you kind of like using your own type of knowledge, interpersonal skills to try to figure out what is actually happening. So in a sense, we all kind of like already there. So please, by all means, give me a press pass, because you get a press pass, you get a press pass, you get a press pass on my Oprah. We all get a press pass. And just go ahead and just see what's really going on. Get to the nitty gritty. What they
Yeah.
say,
It
two
creates an
minds are
age of
greater.
accountability,
What they say, two minds
because
are greater than one.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. With so many people getting the story, now you can, it's just like science. The greater the sample size, the more accurate it is typically, right? As long as everything is being done properly. If you say, hey, 2 out of 3 people like candy, so most people like candy, but then you do, oh, well, only 20 out of 300 people like candy. see how the numbers just completely change the result, So it's the same way. So if you have a lot of, podcasters are saying, hey, this is what happened, and you have only a few saying, or mainstream media saying that didn't happen, and vice versa. So I think it'll create some accountability. And basically, what I'm hearing, Mr. Dashtor, is that instead of watching CNN or Fox News or all this crap on mainstream media, people should just be watching Couple of Nukes and Dash It Out. That's what I'm hearing. I think that's the ultimate better plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Funny. The way you said it like that, a couple of nukes and dash it out, it's funny because then you know the exact definition of dash it out. It's essentially just go from and do like
Yeah,
let's go. So he's like a couple of nukes and dash it out.
Dash
It's
It Out.
like
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop a couple of nukes and just dip.
Yeah, I did think that. I was like,
I
yeah,
was like, what? I was like, wow. It's just like some Air Force One, like, come on, we're just gonna drop these nukes and dip. And you also a veteran as well.
yes, sir.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting, just the two and two. But yeah, no, seriously, it would definitely be dope. It definitely be dope. And you know, like me, like it's been a while since I've gotten back into podcasting, but since I've gotten back into it, all I can think about is expanding and expansion. Even like what yesterday kind of came out from this networking event, met a ton of people and great creators. Some just influencers, as we were speaking about. Some are just influencers that pretty much market like beauty products, skin products, hair care products, and X, Y,
Yeah,
and Z. And you have those who are like authors. You have some that are designers, some that's models, and
yeah.
what I've realized that we all have in common is that dream,
Hmm.
that goal, the need to really hone your craft, your skill. And the realization I had when I was at this networking event yesterday was just like, wow, the Dash It Out show. I'm just sitting here just envisioning the future of it. And I'm also envisioning the future of we creating the future. The more advanced we get, the more we create our future. Like 20, 30 years from now, who can say go online right now and like say they have a show? Come on now. Couple of nukes. 30 years ago. How powerful would it have been to really create a show and have an audience that tuning in, listen to the message that you convey because they can relate to it. The platform that you generated. Yes, I'm not saying it's impossible, but 30 years ago, that would have been a little bit difficult.
Well,
You
and you
know,
know what? You and I are some of the last real podcasters and creators because we're coming upon a time period where our kids and our grandkids, if they want to host a podcast, they're going to have an AI make everything for them. They're going to have the AI make the thumbnails. There are podcasts being voiced by AIs right now, being recorded, scheduled. You and I are part of the last generations here that actually create stuff by hand. You and I learn, penmanship and cursive in school. Now kids are just going to learn how to type. They might not even know how to use pens and pencils. We drew our own pictures. Now everyone has digital. We didn't, when I was growing up, we didn't even really have digital art. You wouldn't like if you wanted to go get a tattoo, the guy would draw it by hand. Now they have layers and layers on an iPad and they can just remove and change anything at a time. I mean, just from you and I being alive, we've seen so much advancement and change. So when you talk about how like what we're doing is something that's part of this time period. Just as I've had people in their 80s come on my show and they did things that you and I would never have the opportunity to do nowadays. So our kids and grandkids and great grandkids will be maybe they won't even know or be able to do something like this because they just have a AI do it for them. Isn't that a crazy thought?
I know a few people who have said the same thing in what you said. So let me just ask you this one quick question.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Do you feel as though as we progressively move forward in the development,
We're
not just in
moving
the
backwards.
technological development of our nation, of the world in general, do you feel as though the younger generation now, and the generation after them, and the generation after them, do you feel as though they're going to lose some form of integrity or some type of life skills that's needed to help them survive? Do you think that that's the
100%, 200%. I've had this conversation on my show a few times. Like in my to be a working man in a working man's guide episode, we talked about how look at social skills, and even in other episodes about conformity. When you generate an AI, if you're working with an AI, and let's say it gets to the point where everyone has an AI assistant, you tell it how to be. I could go in chat GPT right now and be like, hey, your name is Caroline. You're 22 years old, but you've got a master's in, coding, and I'm your boss, and you text me with exclamation marks and emojis, and you do everything I say. You can make the personality type however you want. In the real world, and I'm sure you've dealt with it, your coworkers aren't how you program them to be. They are annoying, and they can be rude and lazy, right? You could have some great coworkers.
Who you telling?
Yeah, exactly. So you know what's up. And when you have these AIs and you're doing everything with AIs, there's no like dislikes or upsets. Everything is conformed to how you want it to be. And then you go out in the real world and you have to deal with real people. Just like if everyone ends up dating AI robots or having these, chat bots and stuff, again, we talked about how people were spending more and more time inside and how when if kids spend so much time inside and not socializing, and then they do go out in public, they're not going to be able to handle their emotions properly, right? If
Mm.
you have an AI who tolerates, poor sportsmanship, and your kid grows up thinking that's acceptable, and then she goes out, your daughter, and plays a real game in the real world and throws a fit and flips over the table and stuff. I mean, it's going to be different consequences. And I think we talked about work ethic. Here's how I see technology as it's there to make life easier, but you should know how to do everything without it. And I don't want to quote, you know, Captain America and Tony Stark here, but if and Spider-Man, but if you're nothing without the suit, you shouldn't have it. I
Right.
think AI and technology should be a plus, right? I look at human beings should be able to make cars by hand with no assembly line. They should be able to mine for ore with a pickaxe, but we have drills and electronic tools to make it easy. I think all the farmers in America, if they lost all their John Deere, not a sponsor, equipment and had to do stuff by hand, they should be able to do it. In the same way, our kids should still learn math and science and reading. But what are our kids doing? If they get assigned to read a book in school, they say, "Hey, ChatGPT, Wuthering Heights, give me an essay in this style, this, and that." They're losing the ability of critical thinking, of analyzing, of literature, of everything. So as we're going forward, we're almost going backwards, and it's sad to see. It's sad to see that I know people my age, who don't know how to read an analog clock, who can't read Roman numerals, who don't know cursive, who are so reliant on AIs for everything. I mean, just asking their AI what they should make for dinner. It's a age of reliance in marketing and consumerism.
Honestly, let's keep it 100, okay? Because yes, technology is there to make things easier, but it is also making things harder because you have people that's losing critical thinking,
Yeah,
such as you said. But it's also like a process of elimination because you have those who are equipped. Certain people that have, let's say, some people that have financial, uh, I wouldn't say financial success, but most of those who are able and equipped to have the best education, they go to the best educational systems because of financial luxuries and X, Y, and Z, you know. So let's for instance say, okay, like Bill Gates, okay. So Bill Gates kids, they may use AI and X, Y, and Z, but you think for a second that they're gonna be like, okay, do you want to rely on this? No. Because with the process of elimination is that okay, the general population is constantly using everything that we put out on the market that make their lives better, which sometimes it does. But then they start to forget their true innate gifts. And that can make that person uh, less marketable, less valuable. So when you try to get a job or you try to go into a workforce, what are you there's no value, you're not valuable. There's nothing valuable about you besides what it is that you're doing that I can already do for myself.
right.
But then you have those who are already on that wavelength. They're like, look, you know what? I can use this, but I don't need it. But I would
Mm,
do it to show you the relatability factor for myself, but I don't need it. That person is more valuable because if everything's go black, if there's a whole, if there was a blackout across the government, the US, like a global blackout, it really would be survival of the fittest at that point. You get what I'm saying? Can you read a map? Can you actually pull out a map? To the generation, can you pull out a map and actually find yourself,
Right.
find your way through the woods, or like at least 1,000 acres? Can you at least find your way through that shit? You know what I'm saying? It's things like that. You
Yeah.
know, can you speak a different language? Can you speak Spanish? Can you speak French? Like, suppose you may meet somebody and you're not sure if they
What this
partner
puts
or if you need
forward
help.
is
It's certain things,
self-education and
but
accountability.
but that's the thing, because nowadays you can just take your phone and go to Google Translate or Siri and just be like, oh, this is not what they say. Put up to their mouth,
Right.
have them speak into it, and you can just translate it. But if there's a blackout and all the cell towers is down and out, and you can't do that, then what? So I get exactly what you're saying, because as we progress forward, as as the human species, we all kind of digressing as well. So I can I can wholly believe what you said. At just certain times, I'm just like, damn, I love my technologies though. I
Well,
love the fact I can sit
here's the thing.
here.
I'll make 2 points. The first is it'll be survival of the fittest, and that's only going to be. This is going to emphasize that self-education and being a lifelong learner is the most important thing. That while you have this technology, learn as much as you can to survive without it. You know, and that's going to put you ahead of everyone who just took it for granted and didn't learn and didn't prepare. You know, they say that luck is just when opportunity meets preparation, right? So if you got to be constantly
Yeah.
preparing. Caveat: the nice thing about AI and the computers and
Not
internet
saying no one
is,
want a blackout and all, but just saying, I got you.
yeah, 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 you know, is that it's allowing so many more people access to education that they couldn't get beforehand. You know, I think that it is leveling the field to some degree. Obviously, there are still a lot of people in the world who can't afford a computer or a phone, but with a lot of open AIs being free, it really helps streamline their ability to get an at-home online self-education. So that's the only thing I will say that is like there's a lot of good to it. In fact, there's a lot of good to it. But I think overall, to bring it back, you talk about you and I, looking back and being like, we made our show by hand. And I'm actually, one of the things I emphasize is I personally like doing a majority of creating my show by myself without the use of AI tools, because I like it, like writing the show descriptions myself, making the titles myself, designing the artwork myself. I might use some AI tools to help generate some certain parts of it, but I like to put as much human work into it as possible to make it unique, to make it me. And I think it's so important because now we're in an age where a lot of stuff is becoming copy paste. You know, AIs are building foundations off of what's already made. They can't necessarily generate stuff that is too new or too unique. So
Mm.
they can look at my show and your show and make something similar, but it's not going to be its own unique show technically. It's just a combination of your show and my show, the best elements of it. AI didn't just come up with this idea like now we have this podcast, the XYZ podcast, and it's going to be this style and this. So I think human creativity and human work ethic and seeking knowledge, we need to keep all of those as core values and as something that all of us constantly pursue. So that is just on that. And then just speaking about the future, I know you talked about going to more networking events, putting out more episodes. So to kind of sum it up, we talked about the Dash It Out show. What is it looking like as you continue to expand and to grow?
As well, I see the future of the Dash It Out Show podcast. Honestly, I see a lot for it. I see a lot for it. One, more guests, which means more talk. More talk means more engagement. More engagement means, okay, I have their ear. So, what is the next step? The next step is to really talk, and actually not talk, but actually showcase of me doing and taking care of certain social issues. Like we was talking about with the whole gun violence. That's when we was talking about the whole press pass to the White House. That would be a plus. That would actually show me going and doing and actually taking an initiative to not only
Yeah.
speak about it, but actually start petitions. Start getting individuals or again certain certain people testimonies that will really help cultivate what is this exactly that I'm trying to convey. But far as everything else, I mean, I would like to see the Dashto show become a syndicated, TV show, daytime TV show, or a nighttime TV show. So I could do either one. I could be up there, I could be like on some Breakfast Club, I could see something like that. Or I was like Tamron Hall. I can see doing something similar like that. Or it can be some late night junkie like Arsenio Hall, or maybe or maybe my good man Jimmy Fallon. Yeah, something similar, and at the same time, you don't have to necessarily be, just straight serious, but I want to have a serious aspect. I want to get the message across.
Yeah.
Funny because I had an interview with a guy named Damien DeMar, whose episode is going to be dropping soon as well. And he was very upset. He was talking about the end of the world, and most would say he's coming off as a conspiracy theorist. But I'm like, no, that's not the case. So I went ahead, we interviewed, we talked. However, there came a point in the episode, that particular episode, where there was like a brief segment, which is pretty much the fun Q&A, which I did with you as well.
Yeah.
And he was just like, why do I feel the need to talk about this? Why I need to talk about this? I'm talking about the end of the world. Like, you want to have a game? I'm just like, yeah, because you know why? Because sometimes you need to break the ice. I feel comfortable with talking about this on your show. However, look, no take backs, okay? Because I clearly said this on my show about him in the comment that he made. Sometimes you need to break the ice, and
Yeah.
not everyone process information the same, It's almost like that's why you have certain grade levels. If you a little bit smarter than your classmates, then what you do, you get skipped ahead, because it's like nothing that they can tell you that you don't already know. But in those who take and process information a little differently, you have to present it a little differently to them.
Yeah.
That's essentially
100%.
what we do as podcasters. Not everyone tune into the news. Not everyone wants to sit here and read the newspaper. Sometimes people want to get their information from other valuable entertainment sources, such as podcasting, such as like radio shows. Some people like to get their information those ways, or probably scrolling on your phone on the news feed, like,
Yeah.
oh,
Well, and just the
oh,
style,
this happened. It's things like that. So my thing is with the Dash It Out show, yes, I want it to be informative, but I want it to be entertaining and informative. I want people that's like mine and those who are not to be able to still have takeaways from the show. So if that means having a daytime talk show where I do probably have a brief second about speaking about pop culture for a brief second, as long as I take that narrative back to the subject matter at hand, which is originally what people tune into the Dash Style show for, which speaking about real topics from people from all walks of life and those who aspire to do whatever it is they want to do. I would never sit there and take back from artists who want to explore and grow. I'm not going to sit there and say don't do it, but I'm going to let you know what it is you're getting yourself into, what you need to prepare yourself for, protect your integrity, prepare for the fight, and also prepare to expand and to grow, because you have to stand for something or you
Yeah.
fall for anything. And you know this better than I do.
And I gotta ask because my curiosity is piqued. You've been for those of us just listening, you've been having a little sip of a drink this whole time. I have to know, is it whiskey or did you bring something different to the show?
Oh no, it's not whiskey. This is like wine. This is like Chardonnay. However,
Oh,
this is actually a tequila glass that was gifted to me. Um, but no, this is just wine. It's a little white wine. And I also have my cup here of water. Dark side, walk to the dark side. Star Wars. And then a
yeah.
little water. I actually have another event.
Is it really water or is it water that you're turning into wine?
Just
Yeah.
a couple.
Yeah.
It's definitely kind of both. In a minute, I'm gonna turn it into wine too, so I can have like a double shot of wine. Not gonna be a double shot of whiskey. It's gonna be a double shot of wine.
Yeah. Well, as my friend Big Red once said, wine is for chugging, and then he would chug a bottle of wine and pass out. But he doesn't drink anymore. He had like maybe once or twice that he did that, and he's like, I'm done drinking wine.
And the crazy thing was, I was a little bit hesitant because I was just like, I watched a few of your show episodes, of course, obviously, and then the recent one that you
Alcoholism
talking about
recovery
when
is a
you talk
big
about
one.
alcohol and recovery addiction with your father. So I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's probably a little touchy for you to see me drinking, and considering your background with your father, who was essentially an alcoholic, like for the words, but it's not my place to really say because that's your life, you know. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I have a mother who's an alcoholic, you know. I have alcoholics in my family. So that's the reason why I kind of move differently. My thing is, I know how to handle myself with it because of what I've been through. Like, you know, I have a
Yeah.
lot of things. I wouldn't say my mother was an alcoholic. I would never disgrace my mother in that way. But let's just say that she had a lot of alcoholic tendencies that could have been, things could have been presented a little bit better. Things could have been done a lot better. And she could have presented herself a lot better to us as a family. So, I mean, I can relate with some things that you were speaking about in your prior episode. However, in my case, I learned to take back my power. It's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. My thing is, if everyone run away from everything because of their past, then where will we be? Like, where will we be? And too much of anything is not good for you. Too much water is not even healthy. If too much water is not healthy, and we 70% water in our body, that just goes to show that everything is done in moderation. You got to have a strong sense of self, and you got to have discipline to know what it is that what you are and what you're about. However, out of respect, I was like, a little hesitant, but it was a little something to take the edge off. And to be honest, I was like, you know what? Mm, maybe we wouldn't sweat it that much.
No, not at all.
Maybe it wouldn't be much of an issue. I mean, it is a little wine, but kind of thinking about it, I was just like, as we were speaking, I was just like, he did have the last
No,
episode.
you're totally fine.
He
I
had the
was
last episode, and I was like,
no, you're totally fine. As the date of this recording this morning, I was on the show Success to Significance with Lady Jen Duplessis, Dame Lady Jen, and I had met her on a beach in Mexico, on a podcaster's cruise, and on her show this morning, we were talking about, her experience with alcoholic parents and mine, and we shared why she drinks and why I drink, and I think we're a lot more reserved with it, but we both decided that we wanted to drink. For me, it was my best friend in boot camp said, Mr. Whiskey, it's not your choice not to drink. I said, what do you mean? I've chosen to never drink alcohol. It's destroyed my family. I've seen it destroy a lot of lives. And he said, well, you're just living in fear. If you drink it and choose to never drink again, then you've made your choice. And I told him, I'm writing your name down on a piece of paper with explanation. So if I do become a terrible alcoholic, I can blame it all on you. Sign here. But I drank and, I didn't become an alcoholic and so I didn't do the things that my father did and I didn't behave the way he did. And so I've also analyzed it from a biblical perspective, and the Bible doesn't say drinking is a sin. It says drunkenness, excessive
mm-hmm.
drunkenness, and it says in Proverbs, wine is a mocker, beer is a brawler. Whoever is led astray from them is a fool. It's not against the Bible to drink, but I like that part. Whoever is led astray by them. There's a difference between drinking and being led astray by drinking, whether that's alcoholism or just drunken text. It could be whatever it is. And yeah, I have nothing against a little wine to take the edge off. And it's been a long time since I drank on the show, but on some holiday episodes, I did spike a McDonald's Shamrock Shake, not a sponsor, with some Jack Daniels. So I've had a drink or two on the show. It's been a while, but yeah, I was just curious because I saw the color and I was trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured he was gonna speak about it eventually because there been times when I did actually raise the glass to the camera, he was either looking down or looking over, and I was just like, oh, he didn't see it that time. So
Yeah, no, you're
I
totally
would say,
fine.
but then it got
I
to the
felt
point
like
where
I
it's
should
like
have had a
eventually you're
drink
gonna
with
see
you.
it.
I felt like I was missing out.
Nah, it's just something small. I'm actually invited to a comedy show after this, and then about to go there. A good friend of mine who coordinated the event invited me, so I'm gonna go there a little bit after that, and yeah, so I'm pre-gaming, paying
Yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying. I
prices,
get what
New
you're
York
saying.
prices for them comedy show. I'm sorry, I just
And
can't. It depends.
you talked about different mediums and people processing information differently. That's a subject we covered a lot on the show, so I won't go too much into it. But some people need a more comedic approach. Some people need, some F-bombs thrown at them. Some people need encouragement. Everyone's different. Do you see yourself branching into comedy more with in terms of stand-up comedy or, maybe a comedy performance? I've performed comedy. I branched,
Yes,
I never expected it.
yes.
I branched into comedy And I'd love to see you do the same, of course.
Yes. I'm glad that you said that. Yes. I
We
definitely
got to
see
perform together is what I'm
myself.
getting at
Oh,
ultimately.
I'm definitely down. I'm definitely down.
Yeah.
I'm definitely down, and I definitely see myself branching off into comedy. Uh, do I
New
see
York's a
myself
good
doing
place
it?
for it.
Yeah, and so that's kind of one of the reasons why I was like, oh, let me go ahead and go to this comedy show. Good for them. I put it together, orchestrated. I'm just like, okay, let me go ahead and go. I've been in a few
Yeah.
comedy shows before. I listen to a lot of comedics, but I've never really felt the need to do it. It was one time probably when I was very young, probably like, oh, like 12, 13, or should I say? I want to say very young, but 12, 13. Oh, yeah, I was young. I was a baby. I should be a jokester. I was a jokester, and I used to always come up with these little random jokes. And one day my father was just like, "Oh, you should be a comedian. You should do this and that." I never really took it to heart because I never really had the heart for it. But now where I'm at in my life, I tend to make joke of the hard times. Because sometimes it's kind of easy to laugh,
Yeah.
to cry, because cry you have to really go into a state of desolation and isolation, whereby laughing sometimes you can just think about that one funny moment and you
Yeah.
can just smile and just giggle. Even if you don't grin or like laugh, you can still
That
have
internal release.
internal relief. Exactly. So I think it seemed like a lot of comics that do that, a lot of comics that have their comedy shows, and to be able to do have that power to really get people outside themselves when they're feeling like trash. I think that's a very powerful gift. That's a very powerful gift. And to be honest, I would really love to explore that avenue. And I'm glad that you brought that question up.
Yeah, it's a gift and also a skill that you can work on. Yeah, so next time we get together, we'll have to perform a little something. And yeah, in fact, I'll include my last comedy performance in the description of this episode for people to check out. But if you want some laughs and some life advice, we'll have the Dash It Out website in the description below for everyone to check out so they can check out your content from blogs to videos to the podcast, as well as contact you about being a guest on the show. It sounds like you welcome a lot of guests from, as you said, every walk of life. So I highly encourage everyone listening, go to apply to be on that show, check it out. And if it's a good fit for you, get in touch with Mr. Dashtor. He's a great guy. And I want to thank you for coming on the show today and having a conversation as we've had and, for putting in this time and effort to help do something good for the world. I appreciate that.
Man, I truly do appreciate you, Mr. Whiskey. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Yeah, I mean, this was, I wouldn't say a long time coming, but it was destined. And however, I'm definitely down to definitely come back on again. He can definitely come back on the Dash It Out show. Now that we're more acquainted, I feel as though we definitely have a lot more to talk about. And now that we both know the comedy is there,
Yeah,
I
we're going to
seriously
play
want to
more than
know
one
more about
game
that.
next time,
Yeah, seriously.
for
But
sure.
it was definitely a pleasure. Thank you so much again. You're a real one. You're a real one.
Yeah.
Look, you're a real one, and I respect you. I respect you.
Sailing through the ocean blue, nuclear reactors my crew, guiding the ship, the stars as our guide, through the waves we ride. Jokes and laughter fill the air, on this voyage we have to share, working together, side by side, as one family we will abide. In the heart of the ship we reside, nuclear operators with pride, powering the vessel with every stride. Our mission, a source of great pride.